Welcome back to Eurosatory News. My name is Andrew White. Delighted to be joined this morning by Mr. Tommy Gustafsson-Rask, President of BAE Systems Hägglunds, manufacturer, of course, of the CV90 and BVS10. Tommy, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for being here.
Let's start. European demand for combat vehicles is surging with the war in Ukraine, and obviously, how is Hägglunds investing in your own industrial base to deliver more and more vehicles, but obviously keeping the quality?
We are growing. We're gone from 750 employees to 2,640, I think we were last week. So that's in 3 years growth. We're investing. We have invested like $300 million into the business as such. We're growing, say, production capacity like 6 times. But also we have the advantage of using partners, like with the CV90. We weld the chassis hull in Sweden, then we build up local partners that does the assembly of the chassis and do the same with the turret. And for us, that concept of doing business has enabled us to grow very fast in some comparison to our competitors. So it's a lot of internal investment, but also leveraging the partners, the supply chain we have worked through. Earlier on it was called industrial cooperation. Today is more a security of supply approach, and for us that has been an enormous benefit to grow.
Can you give us any details on examples of investment that you've done recently?
For example, we have gone from 1 welding line on CV90, now we have 4 welding lines of CV90. That's one example. Investing in both also processes and tools, because growing a business from 700 plus to over 2,000, you need to look into your processes, how do you document that, but also your IT tools. So it's often talked about just like the welding, machining, but it's also to making the people to have the tools and processes to be able to perform. Everybody's new on the job, and you need to get them on board and get them to grow as quick as possible.
Hägglunds, your customer base is growing and growing, and you're providing platforms across Europe, and obviously they're being supplied to Ukraine. What are the most critical technological upgrades that you're seeing, that reflect the lessons learned from the ongoing conflict?
I think what we learned from Ukraine, the CV90s being there, is that the fundamentals of mobility and firepower is there, and that's proven, and also the protection level of the basic ballistic protection has proven well. I think it's in the new gadgets of things to protect towards drones, where we today deliver vehicles that has, for example, if you look at the drone protection on a CV90 today, you have a commander's independent site with AI that have a 360 constant surveillance. You can use your programmable munition to defeat them if they're on distance. You have the jammers installed on the vehicle. You have the active protection system that can deal with both, say, like RPGs, anti-tank guided missiles, but also drones. And then finally the ballistic protection. I think the war of drones has changed what you need to protect yourself, but it's also some medias, I will say foremost, are drawing the conclusion that an infantry fighting vehicle or a main battle tank is irrelevant, and I say no. But the things we put to Ukraine, they were not prepared for the drone of wars, but they are today. And I think in the end, you need the IFVs and MBTs to be able to take ground.
Absolutely. Armed forces want to be more connected, better protected, even autonomous now. What would you say your main innovation priorities are at Hägglunds, in terms of providing greater levels of mobility, lethality, survivability?
I would say the 3 main components, they're always the core of everything. That's mobility. We are doing subarctic mobility, so that's something we are investing in for the future development. The firepower, yes, today we talk a lot of kinetic energy. I'll come back to that one. And basic protection. But I think what we will see in the future is new actuators like EMP, like laser. And I think the future of an infantry fighting vehicle, you need much more electrical power to deal with a threat that is changing so much faster. And then a CV90 today is software controlled, and that is the core of the CV90, how you easily can get new functionalities, get new capabilities integrated. So I think the pace of that integration part will change. Earlier on, a customer had a CV90 for 15 years, did a midlife upgrade, and then run another 15 years. The pace of those more like a constant change, introduction, running different configuration, like the Air Forces, they're used to fly 3 different configurations. I think the armies are going that way to be able to meet that demand.
Interesting you mention EMP, because that's the second time this week I've heard reference to that. And would that be one of your platforms, launching an EMP effect?
Yes. I think from the EMC standards that we have, what can a vehicle sustain? We're very well protected, and the advantage of an infantry fighting vehicle, it's a farthest cage. As such, yes, you need to protect yourself, but we're well protected there.
Hägglunds is cooperating across Europe, and obviously you're involved in Ukraine. How do you see the European industrial cooperation evolving in the future?
I think we are doing big steps. I think, sometimes, I'll start like this. The market now is less competitive because everything is about capability. How fast can we deliver? So I see sometimes you cooperate, sometimes you might compete, but we're using, for example, like Patria in Finland. They're doing wheeled vehicles. We're maybe competing in sometimes, but they're also a partner for local production. So I think the cooperation is increasing dramatically, but still there will be dependencies across the Atlantic, because there are certain systems that we don't have in Europe. Take, for example, an active protection systems. There are none really fielded available system that is mature enough today. Okay.
We're talking a lot about industrial ramp up, which is improving. Obviously, democracies have expectations for accountability, sustainability, responsibility. Can you talk us through any initiatives that Hägglunds is implementing in respect to that?
I think first is to look on the vehicles that we are developing, that we're following legislation about chemicals, things that we can integrate, not integrate. Secondly is in the operations. For example, the extensions we're doing now, we look at the CO2 neutral investment. We're putting on solar. We have the Nordic's biggest solar panel on our factory. We are central heating and central cooling as well. So we do everything we can, and I think it's important also to attract new employees, because the environment are scarce, and for us it's important to be seen as being, I won't say leader, but being in the forefront of it and showing that you can do investments that are very friendly to our environment.
Thank you, Tommy. Just finally, could you talk us through, what you're showing at Eurosatory this year?
This year we have a CV90 and a BVS 10 and Evo, an evolution of the BVS 10 going forward. So here it's, we have them on stand, and looking at the stand also, Bofors has 2 of their assets, both the Archer, the artillery system, and the anti-air drone system. And we see that the Swedish business units are well presented here, and for me, Eurosatory is to meet customers, and we have a few of them now, and also meeting partners and supply chain, because you need to have your partners and supply chain with you, and I think that's the biggest challenge we have now, to get the supply chain to follow the growth we are in.
Last question, Tommy. A lot of emphasis on interoperability. We hear that word all the time, but interchangeability within NATO is a huge word these days. Can you just comment on how you might see that evolving in the future, given your customer base?
I see that evolving already. I think we have 3 good programs on that. We have the joint procurement on the Swedish leadership with the BVS 10. Sweden, UK and Germany are buying the same basic vehicle. We are now in final negotiations for the 5 nations, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Lithuania, Netherlands. They will buy exactly the same base vehicle, and there you come to interchangeability. Yes, they will have their own command and control system, some old backpacks and things like that, but that's the closest we've ever been to having a identical vehicle delivered, meaning that they can actually exchange crews, but they can save on training, spares, support. So I think we're getting there. The customers are prepared to trade down to 95% solution if they get it in time and get this long-term interchangeability.
Very interesting. Anything else you'd like to add, Tommy?
No, it's a fantastic show. Nice to be here, and it's an effective way to meet your customers and hook up to things. And I think looking into the show here this year, I think we see much more hardware than 2 years ago. It was a lot of drones. I think now you see anti-drones and you see real hardware in a bigger extent than 2 years ago.
Fantastic, and lots to look forward to in 2 years' time, or next year rather. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Tommy Gustafsson-Rask, BAE Systems Hägglunds. Thank you.